All right, next question. Trying something new can often be really scary for anyone. So Kevin, can you share a time where you were maybe unsure or about to try something new that may have been scary, but you did it anyway? And tell us what that was like.
Take your pick. So I remember one time I was in Southern California with some friends, and this was a couple of years ago, and we decided to go out to the beach for an afternoon. And so my wheelchair couldn't go on the sand, so we took my backpack, and my friend Tom was carrying me. And after a while of walking along the beach, Tom, who's a very ornery person, had said, as he said, Kevin, as your friend and the person carrying you right now, I feel that it is my God-given duty to take you into the ocean. And I realized in that moment that all I needed was 3 seconds of courage to say yes, and then he was going to take it from there and do the rest. And so I did. I said yes, and within moments we were out in the waves, crashing up against our chests, and just really out in the water, and it was unlike anything I've ever experienced before. It was really awesome, and we did not find out until later from someone else that was looking on from afar that we had actually been swimming with sharks. And so that was a fun experience to realize later. I don't know how I would have felt in the moment, but it was fun to realize afterwards. It's a good story to tell after the fact.
That is terrifying. I will not go anywhere near water that I cannot see through for like miles. So props to you. And that must have been, a little unsettling to find that out after the fact, or very unsettling. But just a great perspective about kind of having those 3 seconds of, courage to say yes. I love that. Brianna, how about you?
Well, mine is maybe not as exciting as swimming with sharks, but I remember in the early days of the pandemic, so like late 2020, someone that I follow on Instagram posted about a writers group that was focusing on like health and wellness, and it sounded really cool, and I really needed the community, to be surrounded by other writers, but I was nervous to sign up for it. For one, it was a lot of money, and we can't make a lot of money. But also, I didn't really feel like a professional writer. I struggle with imposter syndrome and feeling like the writing that I do isn't like official professional writing. And I was worried that like I wouldn't belong there, that people would feel like I was letting in. Um, and but I did it because again I needed the community, and it has truly been the most rewarding experience. We've been meeting regularly for a year and a half, a year, somewhere around that, and they are so close to my heart, and it is so encouraging to be surrounded by people who have the same passions as me, and to be in community with people that are going through the same things that I am. So that it was definitely worth it, as scary as it was.
That's so awesome, Brianna. Yeah, I would say every big decision that I've ever made was a decision that I was unsure of what the outcome was going to be. From moving my whole family across country, having a baby, starting a business. I know every time before like I go on stage for a public speaking event, I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, that was so worth it. None of those decisions were secure outcomes, but I did it anyways. I did it. Sometimes I did it scared. But at the end, it's rewarding. And I think, if I didn't take those big leaps of faith, then I wouldn't be where I am now. So I'm thankful for that.
That is so true, Megan. And related to public speaking, along the way in my career, I decided that public speaking was something that I wanted to do more of and had to spread a message and advocacy that way. But I didn't know if my mouth and my voice were strong enough to actually give a presentation. So I had these conflicting feelings inside me. I really wanted to do public speaking, but I was so nervous that I wouldn't be able to do it. I, like you said, took a leap of faith, and I went out there and booked my first speaking engagement, went out on stage, and just did it. And there were definitely some, learning experiences, I will call them, in the early days. Talks that went badly, jokes that didn't land, things like that. But I also discovered along the way that there was no better feeling in the world than an auditorium full of people laughing at a joke that I had said. And so I kept learning and kept growing. And today, public speaking is one of the most important and biggest parts of my job. So it was all because, excuse me, I kind of took that leap of faith. Another recent experience was my involvement in the SMA My Way song program that Zarek mentioned earlier. And for those of you who have not yet heard Spaces, the song that we all made, you're missing out. The music video is on smamyway.com, and you can listen to the song pretty much everywhere that you can stream music. But anyway, my wife Hannah and I were asked to be involved and contribute to this like one of its kind musical collaboration, along with Megan and Zarek, and I was nervous because I had like no experience in song creation, and we had a lot kind of going on at the time. Thankfully, we did agree to get involved, and we got on board, and it was an amazing experience to be a part of. So, another example of taking that leap of faith and doing something that you've never done before. Zarek, how about you?
I can't agree more. I was nervous, but also very honored to be part of such a great project with other people in the SMA community. And to answer your question about new experiences, recently I went to Austin to enjoy an awesome concert, but afterwards we went to a zoo. And one of the zookeepers comes up to me and he asked me, "Hey, bud, do you want to play with reptiles?" Now, I'm very skeptical about reptiles, and I was like, no. And he looks at me and he says, "You want to trust me." So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. So next thing I know, he's bringing out a 120-pound ball python and laying it across my chest, right? And I am so scared of snakes. Where I live, those things are scary, okay? So I decide to embrace it, and I feel the muscles and the strength of the snake. And then all of a sudden I realize I want to look this thing in the face, right? So I asked him to pray in front of me, and it gets in my face and it licks my nose, right? But as soon as we locked eyes, this overwhelming peace and serenity came over me. And all the fear that I had doing it went away. And it was one of the best moments I've ever had in my life. And I'm so glad I said yes.
That's really cool. So what I'm hearing from all of you is that trying new things, trying things that might feel scary, very often leads to some of the most amazing and important experiences of our life. I'm also noticing a pattern here about dangerous animals. So maybe that's the theme of this panel.